person. So this makes me nervous.
Why is that? Someone tripping it?
What if someone knocks it over?
Well, it goes in the garbage.
Here's where our silverware goes.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Like, we're gonna check that over.
All right, as long as everybody is still here, enjoying some food, a few of us have a couple of things to just kind of share and hopefully get a couple laughs out of. And now there might be a couple of strange looks for some of it. Couldn't say it in there. Some of this stuff, if you knew Leo, some of the sayings he had, probably not for the building. Thank you so much for being here. It's nice to see people. A lot of people we have not seen in a long time just because life, you get busy with it. Whatever it is that's going on, family, life, work, you name it. With Dad, family was everything. His actions said it, reinforced it, and proved it. Regardless of the difficulty or time-consuming moments involved in order to make it happen, it was going to happen. One of the best gifts a person can give and receive in this world, I believe, is knowledge. Knowledge can't be taken, you always have it. It's priceless, especially if you know how to use it. You don't know this when you're young, but as you age, you understand it. You start figuring it out. Dad was a master at giving us this information. It came at no financial cost from Dad. Although at times, those lessons came at an emotional or physical cost. As you get older, you realize it's better to have that kind of cost when you're young versus when you're older, because when you're older and you learn those, then you come see me in my job. And that place, I'm telling you, over the 25 years I've been there, it's chock full of people that were never taught. Dad was there to walk with you as you realized it and figured it out. Looking back, that was pure, legitimate gift giving. You knew where you stood with Dad. He was fair, but expected your best effort. Dad didn't like a half-assed effort. Put forth an effort, show up, be on time, put your heart into it. Mom and Dad taught us love, compassion, generosity, determination, gratitude, optimism, forgiveness, and how to laugh. Wow, was that ever true? Dad taught us to laugh hard, play hard, work hard, and give it your all because life demands it. Dad didn't always provide an explanation, but most of the time he understood what was being conveyed. Some lessons I look back on and I'm amazed at how unrelenting he was in the timely application of when you were taught a lesson. It didn't matter if you were at church, school, the grocery store. If that lesson was coming, you're on the receiving end. It's here. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. It made us who we are. It's life. It's all-encompassing. There was passion for everything. We knew it and could feel it. This is obviously hard today, and of the recent few years. Dad taught us well. I can say now and fully understand, just because something's hard doesn't mean you turn away from it, you give it all you got. It develops you, it also inspires others around you. Life can be hard. Dad was preparing us for life. Meet it with the correct attitude, and it makes it easier. 100%. One of the lessons that we had was one evening we sat down for dinner. Mom and Dad always made a nutritious meal for us. We knew it. It wasn't junk food opened out of a box or a bag. It was time-consuming to do. It required effort, especially when it's before work or after work. One night as we sat at the table for dinner, I remember being given a plate of food that I'd never seen before. I asked what it was. One of them said it was chop suey. Let me tell you, as a 5-year-old, that's not appealing. And in my mind, at 5, I thought to myself, this looks disgusting. What did I have to base that on? Everything I'd been provided up to that point was nutritious and visually appealing. Not this. I was immediately repulsed by it. I knew right there I wasn't going to eat it. No way. I sat there, I knew at that point it was going to be a battle of wills. So I'm like, well, I guess this is where we're going to start figuring stuff out. The rest of the family kept eating. I still refused to eat. Dad asked me what was wrong, and I said, I don't like it. I could sense this was going to be a problem. Dad said, you're not getting anything else, and this is what's for dinner. I sat there, was fine with the idea I wouldn't eat dinner that night. After a while, Dad tried to encourage me to eat it. I said, I don't want it. Dad said, if you're hungry, you'll eat. He was correct up until that moment in my 5 years on the earth. They provided us with nutritious, appealing food to eat, but this, I can't. Dad said, you're not getting up until you eat. They all finished, cleaned up, left me at the table. I still wasn't going to eat it. After probably 45 minutes, Dad and Mom spoke in the kitchen and then came back to the table, and Dad gave me an option and explained, try it. Just try it, and if you don't like it after trying it, then you can be done. Dad said this in a calm, relaxed tone. I immediately thought, this is reasonable. I can try a forkful and go from there. I tried it, I didn't like it, and said so. Dad was at least pleased that we found common ground. Now fast forward a number of years from there. The learning moment hit. I was at Fort Knox, Kentucky for basic training. And we would do an unbelievable amount of calisthenics and running. 45 minutes before every meal, you'd run miles. We had guys that were track stars in college, they all failed. They didn't care. Every one of you is going to fail. Like, oh, this is interesting. I did 4 years of heavy weightlifting before I went in the Army. Lifting 500 pounds was no problem. I could pick up 60-pound dumbbells and curl them and just go and go and go and go. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. So you would do that before every meal and then after every meal. You had weight shredding off you faster than you could imagine. A lot of people in here I'm sure a lot of people have had broken bones in their life. I've had a few through sports, and I can honestly say that version of calorie reduction was the most painful thing I've ever encountered in my life. They would give you a certain amount of food on your plate, and they would tell you if you look up, if you look left or right, if we hear you talk, you're done. You get up, you scrape your plate, you're done, you're out. We probably didn't have a total of 900 calories in a day. And we probably spent 6 hours at least of physical, hard, going to muscle failure activities. Well, one day I got done eating, I didn't look around. I was starving. So I went to scrape off my plate and pivot and hit the door to leave the chow hall, and right there, it hit. If you're hungry, you'll eat. And I thought, oh my God, this guy was ahead of his time. Didn't cost me anything. Fantastic. He had a lot of humor coupled with truth. You just had to be able to pick up on some of it. Some of it was obvious. Other stuff you needed a few minutes to contemplate and, okay, what about? Okay, I guess. When we first went from our reception battalion, you get all of the medical stuff taken care of, uniforms, haircut, a basic physical fitness test to make sure you can walk and move. Then they line us up across the street where the basic training area is. And the area where I was at was in the movie Stripes. When they're out on that parade ground and they're doing their drilling ceremony and marching, that was the exact same area where we were. So they lined up all 200 of us, shoulder to shoulder, and they started on the right side, and 6 of these drill sergeants that were like Leo descended on each guy. And they went one by one, yelling and screaming. You know, your personal space is about 3 feet in distance. When you get within, usually inside that 3-foot personal space, most people will do a subconscious, subtle, a little adjustment to create a little space. So when they get down to me, one of the things they yell at me about is, we're going to break you. And I immediately said to them, good luck. I lived with one of you guys for 18 years. We did a lot of push-ups. One of the things I remember, today is hard. One of the things I remember with Leo is, if you ever made it on his list for a birthday, Christmas, and anniversary, you always got a card. That card didn't come after the event. It was either arrived the day of or a day or two ahead of time. So in the last number of years, Julie and I have taken a bunch of vacations, and always like clockwork, I'd get a text message from my dad, especially in the years when his hands weren't working so good, the day before. Hey, have fun on your upcoming trip, safe travels. And then the day before we'd come back, it was the same thing in reverse. That's the part for me that's like, you pay attention to it, it's like, yeah, that rings a little bit closer to home because it's unexpected. It's not the preset same day during the year that you can count on. Just one of the things that you notice. He was also good for letting you know the countdown for the number of days until Christmas. Like clockwork, I swear, he had that thing going in the back of his head. One of the things I remember about Leo was he'd always type everything out on a computer or on a typewriter. I saw him one day typing, and I said, how did you learn to type so fast? Whoa! He's like, I was in the Navy and used to send out secure communications out to the fleet, so you had to know how to use every character on the keyboard. Well, I took a class in high school just for some extra credit, and it was typing. And he razzed me, oh, how many words a minute are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, 20, 30, I don't know. He's like, well, move over, let me show you. He'd sit down, and it was like he lit a brick of firecrackers. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. It was rapid. And I said, well, how many words were you up to at one point? Or what was, he's like, we were maintaining a 95 word per minute efficiency rate. I'm like, that is screaming fast. That is really, really fast. If you ever see someone that can type that fast, you'll never forget it. Dad had another saying, if you couldn't take a joke, I can't say the rest of it here. Not at all. But it was always meant with good humor, good intention. The love, the involvement, never forgetting us, and what was important. It could be a special day in your life, and he did remember. The meals, the cookouts, the Packer games, watching Dad make things. Over the years, he would get going on something, and like, what are you doing? What are you making? There'd be a variety of things he'd make, and he'd pass them out to family and friends, and it's like, oh, that's kind of neat, right? You know, in any of these events, humor is the solvent against abrasive elements of life. One of the things I do remember, and this is just about it right here, strength. You know what it is when you see it. When I was a kid, I had to have been less than 10 years old. Dad and I were out in the garage. He was working on something didn't work right. I could tell he was frustrated. He had something locked into a vise on the workbench, and I could tell he was getting upset. And I knew enough at that point just to back up. I saw him pick up a crowbar with his bare hands and bend it in half. I knew at that age, this is the alpha male in the neighborhood. There is no challenging. And we knew as a kid, if there was ever a threat at home, they had better run. Well, you say that, I saw it. Dad, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for the preparation. And I'm forever grateful.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you that may not know me, which is most of you here, my name is Jim Pertzborn, and although in the Cross household, I am known as Jim Bobber. I grew up with Larry and Leo Jr., and over time I was fortunate enough to become something like a third son in their family. When I was young, I came from a large family that didn't always have the means and didn't always have the means to experience many things other kids did. But Leo and Linda never made me feel like an outsider. From a very young age, they welcomed me into their family. My nearly constant presence did not once lead them to treat me as a burden. They fed me, included me in their family outings, and took me along on weekends to their cabin in Adams County. Those experiences meant more to me than I could ever fully express. Leo Cross was a strong and caring man. At times, when you were a kid, he felt like a larger-than-life figure. He worked hard at the post office, served his country in the armed forces, drove classic Corvettes, and somehow still found time to play sports with us kids constantly in the street. We'd play football, baseball, basketball, whatever you could think of. He always took time to play with us. To this day, I would swear that Leo could punt a football farther than any man on earth. One of my clearest memories of Leo Sr. was once when I was in 7th grade, I decided to play hooky and snuck out of my house. He welcomed me into his home and allowed me to watch a movie that I had seen since many times over and over. And I remember watching The Bridge Over the River Kwai and the movie Stripes. They were two of his favorite. Now, if I got a little too loud while he was trying to sleep, after working those third shifts, we would definitely hear about it. Leo was quick to correct your errant behaviors. But even those moments are memories that I smile about today. More than anything, Leo and Linda taught me lessons that stayed with me my entire life. They encouraged me to be a good person, to work hard, and to grow up and be a tough, resilient, and thoughtful man. Their kindness and willingness to open their home showed me something powerful at a young age. That they cared as a good neighbor. The care of a good neighbor can truly shape the future of a young boy who needed it. I will always be grateful for the day I met Larry walking to school in the first and second graders. Because of that moment, led me to the family whose love and generosity changed the course of my life. The love and care the Cross family showed me is a testament of the kind of man who he was and the kind of family he helped build. I will always carry that with me. Thank you.
All right, well, it'll be tough to follow that one, Jimmy. Yeah. You can want in one hand and shit in the other and see which fills up first. My dad was a Boy Scout. My dad was a doer. He was a son, a brother, a sailor, a husband, a father, a friend, and a cool dad in the neighborhood, and a helper to those in need. He led by example, especially all the things that mattered. Anything questionable, he might just have thrown that in there for fun, out of frustration, or to make you think. He was a force. He was a presence. He had a ton of sayings, highlighted by the one I opened with. He didn't tell you what to do. He was like Obi-Wan Kenobi. He'd give you one of those sayings similar to, you must do what you feel is right, of course. And here are some of those sayings. Just worry about yourself and you'll be all right. Believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see and you'll be all right. Except for today, all those pictures and these stories, they're real. That money's just burning a hole in your pocket. It's all in your head. Good thing your head is screwed on or you forget it at home. Are you bragging or complaining? They're talking out their ass because their mouth knows better. You need that like you need another hole in your head. Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. A squeaky wheel gets the oil until they decide to change that GD wheel. My dad was a Boy Scout in Troop 34 out of St. Bernard's Church in Madison, and he was our Cub Master for Pack 23 out of Mendota Elementary School, as well as an assistant den leader with our den leader, Tom Tormay. He organized monthly and weekly meetings, events, outings, ribbons, certificates, and awards. He had a positive impact on many. The ripple effect. He inspired Don and I to take the Scout journey with our family, with Dominic and Colin. We met other families and Scouts who will be lifelong friends. We backpacked through New Mexico mountain range for 9 days, called Mom and Dad from the top of Mount Phillips, snow skied down mountains out west, slept in caves and outside in the snow and 20 below, trekked across frozen lakes, sailed in Green Bay, slept in a submarine, became scuba qualified and deep sea fished off the Florida Keys Reef. He had a ripple effect. In some way, he helped at least 8 Scouts earn their Eagle rank. 8. After Dad started on hospice with a Grace, Colin was able to share his Eagle Scout and earned all 141 merit badge accomplishments with him. We shared all those journeys with him. Frequently when we visited, Dad would recite the Scout Oath and Law. He knew it, and he lived it. The Scout Oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout Law. To help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Yeah. The Scout Law. A Scout is trustworthy. Tell the truth and keep promises. People can depend on you. If he said it, he did it. My dad was on time or early every time. He didn't call in sick to work, ever. Mom had to do it twice for him in 30 plus years. Clocks in the house were set 5 minutes fast, and we left the house with enough time for travel and delays and arrived 15 minutes early. That drove me nuts as a kid. Loyal. Show that you care about your family, friends, scout leaders, school, and country. If you knew him, you felt that. Helpful. Volunteer to help others without expecting a reward. He helped people with projects, moving, shingling a roof, events, the post office credit union, and the food pantry. He told us if we ever needed anything, to come home to our family first and we'll take care of it. When I was in the Army, I called him on a weekday from Italy. The first thing he matter-of-factly asked was, "How much money do you need?" He knew. After waiting for my travel buddy to call his family and failing, I just took over and said, "I'll call my dad." I asked for $110 to buy gas to get back to the base in Germany. I had lost my wallet on vacation. He and Mom contacted the Red Cross and had it wired to the U.S. Embassy in Milan. Friendly. Be friendly to everyone. My dad was a social media algorithm long before the internet. I have great memories of listening to the adults banter back and forth on the deck at the cottage. There was so much laughter. In addition to the holidays and special events, he kept us connected to family and friends throughout the year, with the occasional trip to visit our relatives. At the zoo. You remember that? When we go to Grandma Gertz in the winter, he'd remind us, "Keep your coats on in the house." I don't know if she had the heat on. She was tough. Yeah, you remember this, right? It was cold. He was personable and friendly to all, but would call a spade a spade. Courteous. Be polite to everyone and always use good manners. If you're friends or family, you got that, plus a little extra spice. Treat others the way you want to be treated. He cared for and connected with people by sending cards, Christmas, birthdays, graduations, anniversaries, and sympathy. You may have even received a birthday card stuffed with his signature $2 bills, enough to match your age and on the day of your birthday. Or you received a CD of pictures he took for the most recent holiday or event with your name and date Sharpied on it. When I was in the Army, he wrote me one letter per week. For 4 years. Before the internet and email. So that was my connection to family and home. He saved a newspaper for each birthday and purchased the annual post office stamp commemorative packets for at least 18 years. He would send birthdays for people into NBC 15 News for their birthday segment. Obedient. Follow the rules. He'd say, "You can do whatever you want until you get caught." And he'd also say, "You can't outrun a cop's radio." One time we were receiving a series of crank phone calls at the house, neighborhood, Hatfield McCoy thing. And where are we at here? He took out an ad in the paper, the Capital Times, Wall Street Journal, 4 free Packer tickets. First to call gets them. He gave out the number for the people that were crank calling us. No more crank calls to the phone. I said that the other day, and Larry didn't even know that one. Cheerful. Look at the bright side of life. Cheerfully do tasks that come your way. Try to help others. Be happy. You can see that cheerfulness in all those pictures. Thrifty. Work to pay your own way. He was never entitled. He worked and he earned it. Used time, food, supplies, and natural resources wisely. Mom and Dad made triple mortgage payments each month to pay off the log cabin house before he retired from the post office. Dad had a paper route as a kid and shared with us that when his soles of his shoes wore out, he inserted cardboard patches. Mom and Dad shopped at Kmart, bought generic, but owned a couple of Corvettes and a cabin near Castle Rock Lake. And he saved for retirement and some college tuition. I took my report cards from MATC and I told him to tape them to the fridge. When I was 4, he asked me to take out the trash. And I said, what do I get? You know, insinuating like an allowance. And my dad said, you get a kick in the ass and a frozen food if you don't hurry up. 4 years old. I think he said it with a twinkle in his eye. He loves saying that stuff. Try not to be... Oh, wait a second. Yeah. I had to save up my own money for my paper route to buy my first pair of Nikes and Levi jeans. Mom and Dad wouldn't do it. Try not to be wasteful. This one will make Julie laugh a lot. Yeah. He took the waistband out of an old set of whitey-tighty underwear and used that as a headband. So we laughed so hard. Yeah, like, okay, now we know we got to get him for the next present. Some real headbands. Oh yeah, they look good. We were just like, you gotta be kidding me. Let's see. Brave. Face difficult situations, even if you feel afraid. Do what you think is right, despite what others might be doing or saying. I don't know what to say on that other than he spoke his mind and the truth. Clean. Keep your body and mind fit. Help keep your home and community clean. Dad played softball for years, rode an exercise bike, and helped to keep the house orderly. His favorite saying regarding that? Shit, shower, and shave. Reverent. Be faithful in your religious beliefs and duties. Respect the beliefs of others. So one time I was in middle school and I had a paper route. It was Sunday, the papers were bigger, I had more clients, probably 80 papers worth, and Dad got up to help me do the papers. And we drove around and I'd get out and do it. I think we drove. And we were out there for a long time. And we got home and we drove, we were going to go to church for Mass. For 6 a.m. Mass, and so we drive down past Gophers Middle School, and the snow was so bad, the road was just, it was a drift. You couldn't drive through it, and I was just like, yes, and you get to go home and sleep. So we turned around, and we went home, and we drove in the garage, and we got out, and I started walking into the house, and he said, where are you going? And I said, in the house. He said, no, we're going to go to church. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, we'll walk. So it was about a mile and a half. When you're that age, it's snowstorm, and it seemed too far to comprehend. So we walked, and we got there, and nobody was in the church, so we had to go up and wake up the priest. And we get him up, and we come into the church. There's like 6 of us total. The power's out. That's how bad the snowstorm was. So we had Mass by candlelight. 6 a.m. Mass. So all this stuff took place before 6 a.m. Mass. And I'm up there as an altar boy, and I can remember what the priest said, for his remarks near the end of service. It's okay with God if you don't make it to church on a bad weather day. I don't know if it was so much about church, but it was lessons like that. Like you can do more than you think you can do. Boy Scout motto, be prepared. Prepared and organized. Home, finances, administration, post office, scouts, softball, you name it, he personified it. Playing Trivial Pursuit with the family and friends was fun, until you got smoked. Why? Because Dad read through every question and answer on every card before the next game even started. He would take a guess at a present before unwrapping it. And he was a master at name that tune. Boy Scout slogan, do a good turn daily. He wasn't busy. He was intentionally active. I didn't know how he had that much energy. Closing. My dad didn't ask for much of anything from anyone. He asked for us to do our best. He asked Scout parents to at least show up to PAC meetings and watch their Scouts receive awards. He asked for help moving houses a few times. He asked help from Todd and I to install boxcar siding on the ceiling of the log cabin house when the contractor didn't show up and he had taken vacation. And at the end, he asked God to help him. Mom would get down on your level and be with you. But Dad would pull you up to his level so you could be together with him. Sometimes it was tough. Most of the times it was fun. Thanks to Mom for caring for Dad for so many years. Dad understood that love and service, and he told me that he was appreciative. I'll wrap it up with a couple of his sayings. And one of these applies to my son. He asked me, well, why are they going to the graveyard? Didn't he want to have his ashes spread somewhere? And I'm like, yes, a couple places. But you'll hear why when I do the eulogy. So one of them was he remembered fishing down at Tenney Park, and he wanted his ashes spread there. But his other one was, when I die, they can cremate me and put me in a cat box so the cat can shit on me like everyone else did. How many people heard him say that? I don't think he actually meant that, but he had fun saying it. And no, Dad, we're not going to do that. And the other saying I'll end with is, he said, nobody will give a shit in 100 years because we'll all be dead. While that may be true, that ripple effect will continue. Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything? You want the mic's on a leash here. One second, please.
As long as both him and I were there. And it was a wonderful experience. But I guess the cherry of my story that just made my day and always will. And if you are a cat lover, my apologies. But one day, one of the accountants was out traveling, and I don't know, encountered somebody, but anyhow, he called Leo because he didn't know how to answer the customer. And so Leo didn't know the answer, so he yelled out, Karen, and he said, can you mail a cat? And I says, only if you flatten it out first. And that was, I mean, we never stopped laughing about it. But Leo was just a great guy and a great person to work with. And when you talk about Leo and Linda, Linda was, I was working with Linda at the university, and my mom was not out, and I just had this feeling that I needed to go to the nursing home. And I had, my shift for that night was like a 7, or from a 5 to 7 shift I was supposed to work. And I just was so unsettled, and I was telling Linda about this, and she says, Karen, just go. She says, I'll cover for you. Meaning she was gonna have to drive home in the dark, all the way to Poinette. So, but that's how generous that family is. And I sure appreciated that, because my mom did pass away that afternoon at 4 o'clock, and I was there. So, lovely family, lovely family.
Anybody else? Now, we left 95% on the cutting room floor, so there's plenty of other stuff. Anybody?